This week's episode of the Peter Montgomery Show is proudly brought to you by Savvy SME. Simply smarter, simply social, the social network for Australian business owners. Well, g'day, Ralph. Welcome to the show, mate. It's great to have you on.
Thanks, Pete.
So listen, man, we met recently at Dev Singh's masterclass. I've seen you around the place before, but what do you do, man? Who are the type of clients that you work with?
I work with small to medium enterprise.
Yep.
Basically, anyone that's looking to take their business to a whole new level. So whether they're a business that has hit a flat spot and is struggling, or whether they're a business that's doing okay but wants to do better, or whether they're a business that are doing really well but want to become international or national and don't really know how to make that leap, then I assist them in taking their business, what I say is from now to wow.
Okay, from now to wow. Now, I want to just sort of ask you then, like, I guess we're going to have to dig back and get your story to ask, why should people even be listening to you today? You know, what's so special about Ralph, mate? Because just run through your story, and I'll kind of just interrupt you here and there with something that's interesting so we can dig deeper into whatever you come up with. So, yeah, man, go right back. How did you get into business? And, yeah, walk us through it.
Sure, no problem. So I was born and bred in the fresh produce industry. So mum and dad had a small fruit shop when I was born, and basically growing up, we worked in the store before and after school, weekends, and the lessons that I learned early in the piece were lessons that I will never forget because they were the foundations to me being the entrepreneur that I am today. You know, unfortunately, the word entrepreneur is used too loosely today, but reality is that to be an entrepreneur is someone that's got some vision and some real passion and drive that actually gets things done. It's not, entrepreneurs today are sort of classified as someone that just goes out there and keeps opening or creating, but there's no real substance to it. And the word entrepreneur is used a little bit loosely. So I call myself, an entrepreneur purely and simply because I have lived and breathed every step of the way that I teach today is done through my own experiences. So growing up in the industry, I got to a point where I went off to do an accounting degree because mum and dad really didn't want me in the industry. They wanted me to get a degree. But, it was a little bit hard when you're working before and after school. Your focus is not exactly on, making sure that your homework's done right and that sort of stuff. So school was never my favourite, and I pretty much lost interest and didn't really enjoy, the accounting sort of scene, and I did a stint with the ANZ Bank for about 6 or 8 months, and I transferred my course to nighttime, and that's basically the only time that I've actually been outside the industry, and I found that it just wasn't for me, and the opportunity came early 80s, might have been 1983, where my uncle had actually acquired a store at Hornsby, which was a rundown store, and it was probably turning over in those days maybe about $500,000 or $600,000 a year. And within about 4 or 5 years of taking over that store, we got it to close to $10 million in annual revenue. And we did it. We grew the business. When I say we, myself and my two brothers, we did it on the back of the family tradition in business that we had been raised with, and by that I meant that we gave that personalised service. We gave the service that people enjoyed coming back for. That nothing was a problem. It didn't matter what people wanted. We would go out of our way to make sure that they got that service.
Okay, can you give us an example of something that would have happened in the store that maybe the other stores weren't doing?
We would. So if you came in specifically for something and we weren't carrying it, we would make sure that we'd get it in and call you when it came in, so you would have it. And many a time it could be something that they would want for a recipe. You see, when you go back, even sort of 10 years ago, we didn't really have the cooking shows that we have today. So we didn't have MasterChef and those sort of shows. So people would read a recipe, and the recipe may have, say, galangala. Now, galangala is a Thai, like a ginger, right? But it's a Thai root vegetable that is very, very high in essence, right? So it gives a lot of flavour. It's very strong. Now, we wouldn't normally carry that because it wasn't in those days, not many people knew of those sort of lines, and they were only purchased for restaurants, right? So, but we would get that in, and it didn't matter if we had to buy a whole box and you only wanted one piece, we would still go and do that. So that was the level of I guess, attention to detail that we would go to ensure that our customers were well and truly looked after. And if they wanted something specifically, we'd basically hold their hand and walk them up to where the product was. We wouldn't just say, oh, yeah, it's over there, And we did that extremely well. And we would, take, if somebody was struggling, we'd take their groceries to the car for them. This is long before, sort of the normal car service type of introduction was made, and it was those little things that made the difference. If an elderly lady come in the store and she was travelling by bus, we'd send somebody with her bag to the bus stop, so she wouldn't have to just carry them all the way up. But it's just those sort of little things, and I guess a lot of it came from one of my mentors at an early age was Walt Disney. From an early age, I just loved what Walt Disney's vision and passion was. And although the guy passed in 1966, and I never knew him personally, and I'd never actually been to Disneyland until this year, I always took a great deal of interest in the level of customer care that they took. You see, I look at customer service today, Pete, and people say that they give customer service, but my experience of customer service is different to what everybody else's is. To me, customer service is if you go into a supermarket and you're looking for cornflakes, you're going to find cornflakes because they sell it. So in their eyes, they've serviced the customer. They've given the customer what the customer wants, right? Mm-hmm. My view on customer service is the experience that the customer leaves the store with. So therefore, if they go and get the cornflakes and they go to the checkout and the person at the register is rude, or doesn't talk to them at all, or doesn't offer any assistance, or if you walk in the store and you don't know where the cornflakes is and someone says, oh yeah, it's in aisle 31, halfway down, 3/4 of the way down the shelf, that's not customer service, right? You're just directing them. Grab the customer by the hand, walk them to where it is. Anything else I can help you with, ma'am? That's customer service, because then the experience that the customer leaves with is, wow, they really looked after me there, right? So for me, it's the experience that counts, not necessarily the fact that you've served them. It's what they're going to leave and remember you by. That's what's most important. So that's one of the strongest points that enabled myself to grow to the levels that I grew. So we tracked off into Hornsby. We were there for quite a few years, and then as we started to become, I guess, popular in the area, we had been approached by an IGA supermarket to supply them with produce, and we basically started supplying them, and within 4 weeks we had doubled their turnover in that store by simply looking after them with quality, but also educating them on how to group and match product so that it would be enticing for the clients to buy. So by doing that, before too long, word got out and we started becoming bigger and bigger, and before we knew it, we were supplying 22 stores. And we then found that our facilities at Hornsby got a bit small, so we had to move into a bigger operation into the Sydney markets. And we grew from there, and we basically just kept growing and growing and growing to the point where we were, one of the biggest suppliers in New South Wales, and we were supplying well and truly over 120, 130 supermarkets across the state, and basically from a little business that we started with, turned into a $130 million empire, some 20 odd years later.
I think a key thing I'm picturing there as well is that 20 years later.
Yeah, 20
You're in for the long haul. You're in for the long haul with this,
absolutely.
As opposed to, hey, I've just done a 3-day course or a 6-month masterclass program, and now I'm the super business coach, right? I definitely get a different vibe from you, from someone who's been in the trenches. I get that.
So in that time, Pete, so during the 20 odd years, been brushed with some close shaves with bankruptcy.
Can we dig a bit deeper into maybe one example of that?
Sure. Well, look, so 3 times in my 30 years now, I've come close to bankruptcy. So I've never been bankrupt, but I have come close. And the difference for me, and I really love using this analogy, is that bankruptcy is easy. You know, you basically wipe the slate clean and you start again. And it doesn't matter who you hurt along the way. That's bankruptcy, right? And yes, I know that people may say, you know, sometimes it just couldn't be avoided and that's how it's gone. I am not apt to disagree with that. However, if you pick up the signs early enough, you don't get to that point. And the other thing for me is that, you know, there is always an option. There is always an option for a solution. So it's looking for the solution rather than just standing on the fact that you're going to go bankrupt.
So what happened for you? Well, what's a bit more specific, like what caused your almost bankruptcy?
Yep, sure. So the first time for me was in 1990. We were continuing to grow. Business was going great. And we had extended credit to 2 customers that went bankrupt on us within about 3 or 4 months of each other. And they were quite large. Together they'd gone for over $30 million, which is it's a lot of money today, but it was a hell of a lot of money in 1990. And that at that point I basically came to a massive halt. I'd only been married for 6 months. You know, basically I had to sell everything, move back in with mum and dad, but bankruptcy was not an option. I just basically head down, backside up, and just went for it again, and, you know, and started to build the momentum, which was great. The second time, continuing to grow, and things were going really great in 1999 on the 12th of October. And you think, wow, that's, you know, a date that you can remember, and it's very prominent in my mind. And the reason is because it's the day my middle daughter was born. She was born at about 4:30 a.m. I got back to the office at around 9:30, 10 o'clock, only to find the National Australia Bank at my doorstep with papers to foreclose. And the reason that is because all the years before that, I just basically head down, backside up, worked, did everything that had to be done through the business. So I've done everything from sweeping floors to loading trucks to driving trucks, delivering to our clients, to wearing a suit and going visiting new clients, to everything. I was doing as much as I could hands-on in the business. And so was my brother, of course, right? And we had a general manager who was our financial controller, had helped himself to $580,000 and wasn't making payments to the bank. So we were getting glowing reports week in, week out. In our meetings, we were getting glowing reports that we're making money, but making money doesn't necessarily mean that you're paying the banks, right? So got to the point where the banks came and they wanted to foreclose. So they wanted we did a deal with the bank, and we had to pay all that money back in 6 months, right? Which was an absolute, task and a half for us. But I wasn't prepared to be put into liquidation or to go bankrupt for that. So that was the second time. The third time was in 2006. We had been supplying the Franklin supermarket chain for a number of years, and they were quite a large client of ours. And they basically came to us and said, thanks very much for a great job you've been doing all these years, but we're now going to go and do it on our own. And this is after building a brand new facility for them 18 months earlier to house their growth. That little mistake cost me $6 million.
Because how was that a mistake if they did it? Like, what did you have not have?
I didn't have a contract.
Okay.
It was all done on a handshake. But we'd been supplying them for, roughly 7 years. And you see, to me, even today, I say a contract can be broken, Pete, right? Even if we had a contract in place, if we don't deliver, then that contract's going to be broken. So by not having a contract, it kept us hungry. It kept us thriving for perfection, and I don't mean like we would want it to be perfect, but you make sure that you're on your toes all the time. And by doing that, you're continuing to grow and move forward. When you're comfortable, you see, I say this in business, if you want to become successful in business, you must be uncomfortable all the time, right? Not unbearable, but uncomfortable. And what I mean by that is that, if you go to the gym and you do a workout, and if you're not a little bit sore, you haven't put on any muscle. You haven't strained yourself, right? Now, I'm not saying go to the gym and work out so damn hard that you're not going to walk for the next week, right? Because that's unbearable. But if you're uncomfortable, you're continuing to stay active. So that means, what can I do better? What can I refine? What can I fix? Who can I help? How can I make what we're doing today better that's going to give us a result for tomorrow, the next month, and the future, right? Excuse me.
Yeah, no, yeah, man.
Thought it was off. I'm sorry.
That's cool.
So the thing for me is that by doing that, you're automatically growing, you're on top of your game, and you're able to find any little niggly incidences that are happening in your business, any little cracks that start to appear, you're on the ball, so you'll pick them up straight away, right? When you're comfortable in business, you've let your guard down, right? So therefore, you're sitting back and you're saying, we're going really well, we're comfortable, life's great. You've taken your eye off the attention to detail. So if something's going on in your business, you're not alert to it, right? And by doing that, not only does it affect you internally in your business, that you're missing things that are not happening, if your staff aren't sharp or if things aren't getting done, you're missing that because your attention to detail is not there, but you're also exposing yourself externally to your competitors. Because while you're sitting back in a comfort zone, right, you're actually going backwards. They're moving up, they're making up ground, right? So for me, and I say this and I teach this even today, I don't care where you are in your business. If you're doing extremely well, it makes no difference. You need to continually be on top of your game and remain uncomfortable, because uncomfortable is growth. So I guess, in the three of those examples that I just gave you, whilst there are circumstances to why they happened, I still take full responsibility because I was at the head of the organisation, right? Circumstances were what they are, and I had to find solutions to keep myself moving forward. So when the opportunity came, I guess, was presented to either go bankrupt and wipe the slate clean or look for a solution moving forward, going bankrupt for me was never an option, because you see, at that stage in 2006, we had probably 400 suppliers, maybe even more. And to me, I would have been affecting 400 families. And that was never an option. It was never an option. So whilst I did, there were payment plans and there was a lot of negotiations done with suppliers, my first and foremost priority was to ensure that they got paid, because it wasn't their fault that what had happened. It was our fault. And excuse me. And the reason I guess that it did sort of happen in that regard was that, chain stores being a very competitive industry, they're always looking at cutting costs, and they thought by cutting a middleman out, which was us because we were a wholesaler, they could do it better. Now, consequently, it was one of the worst mistakes that they had ever made, because today, 2013, there's no more Franklin stores. They're gone, and that's a direct reflection on the management that they had in place at the time. And the reason that is because, they weren't looking at the little things that made a difference. They were looking from an accountant's point of view on where to save money rather than add value to their clientele. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that sounds like, they aren't walking people by the hand to where the cornflakes are, sort of thing.
Not at all.
If they had been, maybe people would have chosen them, if they paid attention to that kind of detail, chosen them over the other stores.
And you see, for me, a lot, when you take over a company or when you do something, when you promote, there has to be a difference. There's got to be a wow factor, right? If you're going to create something and make a big song and dance about it, there's got to be something that is going to make people want to come back to you. And I remember in 2002, Franklin's so Franklin's used to be owned by the Hong Kong Dairy Farm Group, and in 2001 they were sold off, and Woolworths took over some stores, Coles took over some stores, and the remaining stores were bought out by Pick n Pay in South Africa, which is who we dealt with. So there was 90 stores in total that they had. And we were their only supplier in fresh produce, and we were a preferred supplier for IGA at the time. So we had, the business was sort of split in those couple of areas. When Franklin's had settled in after about a year, they did this massive campaign, and it was wow, look at us now. That was what the campaign was. And in 6 weeks, right, there was a massive influx of customers, because the campaign was, wow, look at us now, Franklin's is changing, right? Mm-hmm. The result was huge, absolutely huge. The problem wasn't sustainable. And the reason it wasn't sustainable is because when people walked into a Franklin store that they hadn't been in for years, they turned around and said, wow, what? Nothing's changed, right? So if you're going to make that statement, make sure that it's the right statement. A coat of paint and a new sign doesn't mean that you're running a better business if the culture hasn't changed, hasn't shifted, right? So what happened was it was a massive flop. See, they had an opportunity to really capture the market and be a genuine number 3 to Woolies and Coles. But they never took that opportunity because they buried their head in the sand and let accountants run the business for them, and they were all about percentages. Mm. And in all the businesses I've owned over the years and all the bank managers that I've spoken to, not one of them will accept percentages as you're banking. They want to see dollars, right? Mm. So I don't care how good your accountants are, right? You cannot bank percentages. You can only bank dollars. So therefore, you need to run the business according to what the business requires. Now, streamline, value add, make sure that you are running a very strong and strict business, but it doesn't necessarily mean that, you always work on percentages, because you need turnover to come through and make the dollars. And, that's what business is all about. It's about generating dollars, not generating percentages. And that's the mistake that I believe that Franklin's made. And I'll argue that point with anybody for as long as they would like, because, I've lived and breathed it for 30 years.
Okay, now I want to touch on a few things that you've kind of talked about and some things you haven't quite talked about. Now, your term entrepreneurship, entrepreneurs, what that means today to what it actually means. So like Seth Godin's one is the idea is that an entrepreneur will build something that works without them. Someone who gets paid to do work is a freelancer, not an entrepreneur. So if people, for example, people pay me to make a video, do something, I'm a freelancer. That's not entrepreneurial. I need to be involved in that. So when you're talking about entrepreneurs, what's your definition of entrepreneur? And then I want to talk about how the landscape's changed and what you're doing differently today than in business, and that what your business model is compared to back then. You're not still in the fruit business. That's not what we're talking about today, really. So what's your vision? What's your term entrepreneur mean?
Well, to me, an entrepreneur is someone that can go out and create something and have it so it's sustainable and it'll blossom into a really good business. That's an entrepreneur, right? Someone that can go out there and create, that has a vision, knows what they want to do, where they want to take something, right? I think, and obviously it's having a system or the right people behind you to pick up the pieces. right? So be creative, move forward, know what you want, have everything in place, and make sure that you've got the people to follow up on what needs to be done to get that achieved, right? Unfortunately, today, the generation that we have coming through, they have a mobile phone and a laptop, and they're an entrepreneur, right? They don't have a support team. They don't have a longer term vision to get something that will grow and become sustainable. I guess where I'm heading is that, years ago, we would always look at something to continue to grow and build. Today, people don't look any further than 1 or 2 or possibly 3 years. If you ask somebody what they see 5 or 10 years from now, they can't tell you, because it keeps changing so quick. And what happens is that I think the definition, or the difference between the definition today and of yesteryear, is that today entrepreneurs get attracted to bright, shiny objects. So where there's a new flavor and the light is shining brightly on that, everyone gets attracted to that, and that's what they all go for, right? So they're not exactly as creative as we used to be, and we didn't have the the technology that we have today. As I say, go back 10 years. I mean, we've really gone ahead leaps and bounds in the last 10 years, but technology didn't really play a big part until probably, I know that we probably go to maybe the early 90s, where technology really just started to making inroads with mobile phones and we're moving into that era. So you could say there's 20 years there, but it's really been the last 10 that it's absolutely skyrocketed. And, before then, it was a different mindset, because you didn't have everything at your fingertips. So today you can get these things done a lot quicker. I think the cost of everything has come down significantly in that environment. So, mobile phones, printing costs, media costs. I mean, look at us now. We're interviewing over Skype. I mean, that wasn't available to us.
Yep.
I talk to my kids about a fax machine. They got no idea what a fax machine is. So when the fax machine came out, we thought it was a great thing. So certainly there is a difference. But I just think what is being lost today is that because everything is moving so fast, there's no long-term vision. It's all short. And it's quick. It's spontaneous. It's like fly by the seat of your pants, and we'll see what sticks. If that makes any sense.
Yeah. So it's very short-term vision now versus you're thinking, I'm going to build this thing for 20 years down the track. So now the difference, I guess, too. I'm just going to stop for a sec. I just want to close this call and start again because your screen has frozen.
Oh, sorry.
Right? No, there's nothing you can do. So what I'm going to do is just hang up and then call you back.
Okay. No.
Yeah. Back in the 80s, you were doing that, and it was spinning me out. I was like, "Is it gonna come back? Is it gonna come back?" I thought, I got to stop it now because I won't be able to carry on. I'll just put a picture of you up in that spot. But the short-term vision of businesses now versus the old style was build something for the future. Now it seems like because what you were building, your big experience is in the bricks and mortar supply chains and all that sort of stuff and teams of people. Now with what you're doing, you're going out and actually teaching people about business. How is business different for you? So are you going out and you're speaking, and then what are you going to be working with people one-on-one in groups? How's that work?
Okay, so I've had the opportunity in the last 12 months to change my focus from hands-on running businesses to now going out there and taking my message to the world. And the reason that this came about is that when things sort of started to turn for the worse in 2006, during that time I had a couple of people that came to me and said, asked me for advice because they were in a bit of trouble themselves, and they really saw how I had gone through it and didn't go bankrupt. So they asked for my advice, and I was able to help them. And in that period of time, which was over a couple of years, I saw their businesses go from virtually on the doorstep of bankruptcy to blossoming into a great business that they actually, one of them actually sold for a lot of money. And it was all basically done just through friendship and my knowledge on how I had done and achieved things, and seeing them in a position that I had been in, and I was able to offer them the advice that I had experienced to get them out of their situation. And they were very grateful for it. And it gave me a sense of worth far greater than money ever did. The fact that I was able to help somebody and turn their life around for them, and something they would never forget for the rest of their life, was far more valuable to me than any money you could have ever given me. And it wasn't until I worked with someone who was in a very bad situation and contemplating on whether he should be on this earth or not, that I worked with him and turned his life around, and today he runs a $100 million business. He said to me, Ralph, you have a gift. He said, you need to get your message out to the world. And it really started to resonate with me, because what had happened, and unfortunately, when you're at the top of your game and something happens, the tall poppy syndrome in Australia, people like to see you go down. And it's okay when you're a battler on the way up, but when you make it to the top, everybody wants to shoot you down. And when things sort of started to go pear-shaped, there was a few people that were quite happy to see that happen. And I started to lose the passion that I once had for the industry, because the people weren't the real people that I had thought they really were all these years that I'd done business with them. And I just started to want to focus more on getting my message out to the world and teaching people in business how to do it and how to look for little cracks when they started to appear. And over my 30-odd years in business, Pete, I've seen a couple of people that have committed suicide because of financial situations that they couldn't get out of. And I've seen a number of businesses go bankrupt because there was no one there to show them how not to go bankrupt. And this is what I say today. One of the main reasons that people go bankrupt is that there's no one there to show them how not to. And for me, when you see a couple that have worked all their life, they get to retirement age and they think, well, they've had a year off, but then they're not that old and they don't want to really retire. So they go and say, well, let's go and buy a little business. Never been in business, but they go and buy a business that they know nothing about. The person that they buy the business is showing them great figures because obviously they have been doing well, but you're going into something that you don't know anything about. And I maintain today, if you want to be a good doctor, it requires great medical skills to become a good doctor. And if you want to be a great business owner, it requires great business skills. And I've seen people that come to the end of their working life put everything into a business only to go bankrupt because they knew nothing about business. And franchises is one of the biggest areas that happens a lot, because people go and buy a franchise thinking that it's great. And I've got nothing against franchises. I think they're great. But the problem is that the franchisor will train or show them how to run the franchise, but not always train on how to run a business. The model is, it's McDonald's. You put fries in the oil, you cook them and you deliver them to the customer, and that's the model. But, there's a lot more to that in running a business. There's staff, there's rent, there's electricity, there's marketing, there's, a whole range of different things that need to happen for your business to become successful, right? It's not always about the model of the franchise. So the franchisor is doing their job, but it needs to go one step further. And this is the area that I saw lacking, and why I've done what I'm doing today and developed some programs to get people to that level. So I've created a program called Boost Your Business. It's a 3-day program where, it takes you from wherever you are now to a greater level. So if you are doing okay and you want to do better, or if you're in a hole and you want to get out of, or it doesn't matter where you're at, this is a good program to be at. And after 3 days, if you implement what I teach in the 3 days, you will see huge results without fail. The next program after that is a 6-month program, which is called Master Your Business. And that's where we meet 2 days a month, right, in a group environment, in a boardroom style, where you bring your real life business issues to the meeting and we address them. And when you go back into your business, you move on. So you've actually got results. and month after month, we build on that. And the reason that I've done that is because a small business doesn't get an opportunity to sit in a boardroom environment to get other people's input of where they're at. And basically, it's a great model just to facilitate and be part of a team where it gives you a different view on what people are doing in business. Because in business, Pete, it doesn't matter what industry you're in. The formula in running a business is exactly the same. Whether you're selling, music in a music store, or whether you're selling, finance from a finance company, or a car in a car yard. The only thing that changes is the product. The model, the formula to running the business is the same. So you get a different view from the product side, not necessarily the business side. Because, in my group, I've got, or in one of my current group that I've got at the moment in my 6-month program, I've got an owner of a medical center, I've got an osteopath, I've got a plumber, I've got an electrician. There's a range of different people, and it's always good to get a different view from where they're sitting, because, you only have to take one little thing out of it and apply it in your business, and it makes a huge difference. So it gives them an opportunity to work with people who are real, hands-on, and it's not about going and teaching them any more content. It's about addressing the issues that are currently occurring in their business, because that's the biggest lessons that they'll get. I can flood you with a mile of content, but reality is that when you come to me with your issues that you're facing right now in your business, and we address those issues, that's retained up here forever, because you've addressed it yourself. But if I give you a manual full of paperwork, and you're going to go and read it, it's not the same as actually being hands-on. So I like to be hands-on. Now, that brings me to the next point, which is, university-style teaching. Is there anything wrong with university? No, there's not. But university can't teach you the real live hands-on experiences that I've had. So I'm not saying that what I teach is right and what university teaches is wrong. Not at all. But I think that university doesn't have the hands-on approach from someone that's had 30 years of experience. And a lecturer at university, it doesn't matter how good they are, they can't tell you how to get out of a $6 million hole if you're in one. So I guess that's the credibility that I have in teaching what I teach today. I haven't done a 3-month course and become a business coach, and I actually hate using the term coach, because it's being used way too loosely today. So I guess that's pretty much where I sit and what I believe in and how I teach and how I get my message out to the world. So for me, to answer the back end of the question, is that early last year I had I was diagnosed with prostate cancer, and that's all cleared and it's great now. But it was a wake up call for me, because I was at a point where I lost the passion for the produce industry. I mean, I still love the industry, but I just lost the passion for it, and I really wanted to go out and make a difference in the world and leave a legacy. And I started to explore the opportunities of being out there and sending my message to one to many rather than one-on-one. And today, my whole purpose is to get my message out to as many people as possible, because my belief is that small business is the backbone to every single country. It's small businesses that keeps countries moving forward. They employ the most people, yet most governments disregard them and ignore them. They always go for the massive corporates, right? Small businesses is what keeps countries moving forward. They employ the majority of the population, yet they're the ones that are always hit the hardest. And for me, it's about getting them to understand that if that's what you've got to, what cards you've been dealt with, then let's just move on from that. Don't get stuck on it. The issues are what they are. The government is going to throw whatever they can at us. We just need to continually keep working to move forward on what they're dishing out. But reality is that there's not enough education for small business owners. And majority of business owners, and this is no disrespect because I'm not a university graduate, but most small business owners are not university graduates. So they come to my course or my courses and they don't want to be taught as if they're at university. They want to be taught real life hands-on experience that they can relate to. and then go and implement into their own business. So that's what I do. I try and come and teach from a point of view or a point of difference where they actually get it, because it's interactive, it's hands-on, and it's actually, from someone that's lived and breathed the same experiences that they're actually going through. And it doesn't matter at what level, whether somebody's lost, for me, I'd lost $6 million and I got to where I got. For somebody else, it could be $6,000 and they could still experience that same amount of anxiety, right? Because $6,000 to somebody else could be everything. So it's not about how much money or how big the business is or how small the business is. I didn't wake up one day and, I was turning over $130 million. It happened over 20 odd years. So to me, it was no big deal. I never even looked at it until someone said to me one day, wow, that's a massive business. And, when you're doing and living and breathing it day in, day out, and you're continuing to grow year on year, it just basically becomes, your normal routine. So it's not about me working or having a business at that level. I enjoy working with small businesses because they are the backbone, and I believe in that. So that's why I do what I do, because I absolutely love it, and for me, it's making a difference. And I got to the point where when I got the wake up call, it was like, well, this is half time. It's a wake up call. Look back and see how you've lived the first half of your life. Now look forward and see how you want to live the second half. And the way I want to live the second half is to be able to make a difference in the world. And if I can touch as many people as possible in getting my message out there and show them that there is a way, no matter how hard things are, that there is always a way. If you look at a situation in a positive light, you will always get a positive outcome. The problem is that when most small businesses get into some difficulty, they only focus on the negative, and the negative is what brings them down. So bit long-winded, but that's pretty much me.
No, that's it, man. Look, what I think is awesome is you're not just out there preaching the latest whiz-bang, super-duper techniques, follow my system and you'll have success. No. It's like, what I love is that you're digging in to real business from your real business experience, long history there, and probably also working with other people who get that. Like some are at the same level, some are just starting. But I really love what you bring to the table, and it is different from pretty much everyone else I've spoken to, even on the show. After 47 episodes or something.
Yeah, look, for me, Pete, it really comes down to understanding what the actual situation or the problem that people are in at that time, and basically giving them a different perspective on it, So I like to be hands-on with people. I like to explain and really get clear so they understand where they're at and where they can go. And a lot of times, as I say, it's from my experiences, from what I've seen, is that people get into a situation, everyone handles pressure differently. So something that could be insignificant to me could be quite significant for somebody else. And until you actually show them a different path, they don't see it. And look, I've had people come to my 3-day events where they're absolutely broken on the Friday morning when they come in. You can see the expression on their face. And I tell you, when they leave on Sunday night, they are totally different people. And I also follow up. I make sure that people are doing, something about what they've learned that in the 3 days that they're taking back into their business. So I do follow up after the events to make sure that they are implementing, because, I've seen too many people that get on stage, sell courses, and that's pretty much it. You don't hear from them again. And I'm not like that. I really take an interest in people and making sure that, if they pay me to come to my events, I make sure that they get their money's worth and there is a difference. And I'm not one that promises that you're going to make $1 million on stage. I don't do that. What I do promise, though, is that I will guarantee you'll double your bottom line, right? I will show you how to double your bottom line. So it doesn't matter where you are at the moment. So if you're making $50,000 a year, it's impossible to tell you that you're going to make $1 million. It's impossible, right? But if you're making 50, I'll show you how to make 100, because with some fine tuning, right, and some streamlining in your business with some efficiencies, right, I can turn that around. But if you're making $1 million, then I'll show you how to make 2 million, because it's the same process. It's about efficiencies. It's about adding value. It's about attention to detail that'll get you to double your bottom line. That I can do. but I can't sit here and tell you that you're going to make $1 million, in the next 12 months, because every business is different. And it's impossible. If you're a little takeaway store that's turning over, I don't know, let's say 500,000 a year, you're not going to make $1 million profit, are you? It's ridiculous. And unfortunately, we have those speakers that get on stage and tell you that you can you can be a millionaire in the next 12 months. So what I teach is real. It's real, and I back it up with I put my own experience and my name on the line, which is more important than anything else to me.
Excellent, man. Look. There's certain people that I get on the show, man, that I just want to give a massive thumbs up to, man. And yeah, massive thumbs up to you. Like I kind of relate more to the hands-on, real type business dudes than the flashy, people that have great words to say. Great that can string a sentence together in an impressive way. I get that. You're from the grassroots level, and man, it just thanks so much for sharing your knowledge.
No, my pleasure. Absolute pleasure.
Cool, man. So where can people find you?
Look, my website is ralphanania.com. My next program that I've actually got on is in 2 weeks' time. 2 weeks today. It's May the 17th to 19th. It's 3 days at the Novotel Hotel at Parramatta. Mm-hmm. It's a great event. If anybody is interested, we've got a special deal on at the moment. The program is $2,997 normally per person, but I've got a deal on at the moment where I'm allowing business owners to bring their partner or their spouse. Because what happens, Pete, in business, you see a lot of times where there's a partnership and one partner will be proactive and go out and want to learn more, and the other partner doesn't really want to do that, or they're not interested. But what happens is that one will come back after an event and he'll want to implement, and he'll be on a different level, and there's a disparity, and that's where sort of problems start to occur. So I believe it's important that if somebody does have a partner or a spouse that they're in business with, that they're on the same level. So that's why I've offered this deal for this next event, because I think it's imperative that if you're going to grow, you grow together.
Yes, yeah, it is. It is a big deal too, isn't it? Like having two people going in different directions can really cause problems.
Yes.
Excellent, man. Well, guys, go visit Ralph, jump on his website, fill in his contact details, get in touch with him, find his phone number, and if you think that he can help you in your business, then definitely try and get along to that event. So thanks again, man, for coming on, and it's great meeting you in person at Deb's thing the other week, and great chatting with you now, man. And I see things happening in the future. I'll probably get you on again, and we'll have a chat about something more specific.
Yeah, love to.
Excellent,
Thanks,
man.
Pete.
Take it easy, Ralph. Thanks heaps.
God bless.